Lena stood nervously outside the shining glass doors of Skylux Cafe, the most expensive restaurant in Neo-Tokyo. Bright lights danced across the streets, and hovercars flew silently in the sky above. This was a place meant for rich people, not for someone like her. She adjusted her simple dress and looked down at her shoes, which were a little worn but freshly cleaned. It was her first real date. Her friend Ria had signed her up on a free dating app, and somehow Lena got matched with a man named Jay. His profile said he was a software developer. He sounded kind and simple, just like the kind of person Lena hoped to meet. She walked inside slowly, feeling out of place among the rich, well-dressed guests. Robot waiters glided across the floor, offering drinks and soft music playing in the background. She held her small purse tightly, trying not to look too nervous. A waiter approached her and said, "Welcome to Skylux. Do you have a reservation?" Lena nodded. "Yes, it should be under J, table 6. The robot checked the list but then pointed towards the corner. "Please, right this way to table 9. Lena didn't question it. Her hands were shaking. She walked across the polished floor and sat down at table 9. Not realizing it was the wrong table, a man was already sitting there, dressed in a black suit with a silver tie. His face was calm, strong, and a little serious, but his eyes were soft. He looked up from his smart glass screen and blinked in surprise when he saw her. "Oh," Lena said, biting her lip. "Are you Jay?" The man paused. Something about her voice made him stop. Her eyes were clear, full of life. She looked nervous, but not fake. She had no makeup, no designer clothes, just honesty. He smiled slowly. "Sure, let's go with that." Lena laughed nervously and sat down, not knowing this man was Cale Arden, the CEO of Arden Dynamics, the biggest tech company in the Eastern Quadrant. Cale had been sitting alone, waiting for an investor who had canceled last minute. His life was full of business meetings, fake people, and emotionless AI assistants. But now, suddenly, a girl had sat across from him and called him Jay. He found it refreshing. "So, what kind of software do you build?" Lena asked politely. Cale thought for a second. "All kinds. Mostly things that help people connect faster." She nodded. "That's nice. I work at a diner. I make people's food connect to their stomachs faster," she said with a grin. Cale actually laughed a real laugh, not the forced one he gave during interviews. "That's a good one." They talked for almost an hour. Lena told him about her life in the lower districts, how she worked 2 jobs to help her younger brother. She shared little stories about funny customers, about how she once burned toast, and the smoke alarm made everyone dance out the door. Cale listened closely. No one had spoken to him like this in years. Everyone either feared him or wanted something from him. But Lena, she didn't know who he was. She thought he was just Jay. She asked him simple questions. "Do you like cats or dogs? Have you ever eaten street food? Do you believe in love at first sight?" Cale answered honestly. "Dogs, yes, but only once. And maybe now I do." Lena blushed, thinking he was just being kind. She didn't realize he meant it. But then, her real date arrived, the real Jay. He looked around and spotted her sitting at the wrong table. "Hey, Lena, that's not our table." Lena's eyes widened. She turned to Cale, her face turning red. "Oh no, I sat at the wrong table. I'm so sorry." Cale held up his hand gently. "It's okay. Really, I enjoyed it." Jay came over, confused. Sorry, sir. I think there was a mix-up." Lena stood up quickly. "I'm really sorry again. I should go. Thank you for everything." She rushed off with Jay, her heart pounding. She didn't look back, but Cale watched her leave. His mind, usually full of numbers and tech, was now full of her smile, her honesty, her laugh. He sat back in his chair, stunned. His AI assistant buzzed in his ear. "Sir, the investor has rescheduled. Shall I confirm?" Cale replied, still staring at the door. "No. Cancel everything for tomorrow." "Tomorrow, sir?" Cale nodded slowly. "Yes, I have something more important to find." He stood up, pulled out his portable screen, and replayed the restaurant's table logs and face scan history. As CEO, he had access to everything in this building. His eyes paused on her name, Lena Marin. He whispered her name like it was the answer to a question he didn't know he was asking. Outside, Lena walked with Jay, but her mind kept returning to that warm conversation, the man with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She didn't know who he really was, and she didn't know that her life was about to change completely because of one small mistake. Wrong table, a right beginning. Cale Arden was no ordinary man. As the CEO of Arden Dynamics, he had built the world's first AI-powered space engines, created digital minds that ran entire cities, and had secret access to data most governments couldn't even dream of. He was rich, powerful, and brilliant, but none of that had ever made him feel the way he did after meeting Lena Marin. He sat alone in his penthouse suite that night, watching the city lights flicker through the glass walls. His AI assistant, Echo, floated beside him like a glowing blue orb. "Echo," Cale said softly, "tell me everything about Lena Marin." Echo beeped. "Lena Marin, age 22, resident of Neo-Tokyo Lower District 17, works part-time at Galaxy Diner, no criminal record. Excellent work performance. Lives with younger brother, Milo Marin, age 12. Parents deceased 5 years ago in a shuttle accident." Cale's jaw tightened. She had already faced so much. And still, she smiled like life was full of joy. "Show me the diner," he said. Echo projected a hologram of Galaxy Diner. It was a small, old place in a crowded street. Neon signs blinked. Delivery drones flew above, and old robots served meals. It wasn't perfect, but it had heart. "I want to go there tomorrow," Cale said. "Sir," Echo replied, "I recommend caution. You are a public figure. If recognized in that area, you may attract danger." Cale smirked. "I'm not going as Cale Arden. I'm just going as ... a customer." The next morning, Lena wiped the diner counter with a smile, though her heart was still full of confusion. Last night's mistake kept repeating in her mind. She had sat at the wrong table. She had laughed and talked with a stranger, thinking he was her date. But the way he smiled, the way he listened, it didn't feel wrong. Jay, her actual date, had been nice but boring. Their conversation was dry. There was no spark. "Why am I thinking about that guy?" she whispered to herself. "He was just polite." The bell above the door rang. Lena turned, expecting a regular customer. Instead, a tall man in simple clothes walked in. A cap covered his hair, and dark glasses hid his eyes. But something about his calm walk felt familiar. "Table for one," he said gently. Lena froze. It was him. Cale, now dressed like an average man, smiled under his glasses. He had entered the diner without any bodyguards, without Echo, without his name. He just wanted to see her again. "Right this way," Lena said, hiding her shock. She led him to a small booth near the window. "Didn't expect to see you again." "Neither did I," he replied, sitting down. "But I couldn't stop thinking about last night. So I came for coffee, and maybe your company." Lena smiled shyly. "Well, I make great coffee." She brought him a steaming cup and sat across from him during her short break. For the next 20 minutes, they talked, this time as themselves. She learned his name was Kai, his nickname. He learned more about her brother, her dreams of one day opening a small art cafe, and how she saved every coin for it. She didn't talk about money. She didn't ask him what car he drove or what brand he wore. She just cared about the moment. Cale was amazed. Lena wasn't like anyone he had ever met. His world was full of people chasing fame, wealth, and power. But she was chasing peace, love, and purpose. She was real. And Cale knew then he didn't want this to be a one-time visit. That evening, Cale returned to his corporate tower. Echo hovered beside him again. "Echo," Cale said firmly, "mark all non-essential meetings tomorrow as cancelled." "Sir?" Echo replied, confused. "You are due to present the Lunar Bridge project to the Global Board. They can wait." "Something else matters more," Echo blinked. "This is not logical," Cale smiled. "It's not logic, it's human." For the next few days, Cale kept visiting the diner, sometimes in disguise, sometimes just from a distance. He helped her carry supplies when she was struggling. He waited at the counter just to hear her talk. He even fixed an old broken service droid outside her diner, pretending he was just good with machines. Each time, Lena became more curious. Who was this man? He was too smart to be a street worker, too calm to be from the lower sector. And those hands, they looked like they had never done heavy labor before. But she didn't push. She just enjoyed the moments. One night after closing time, Cale was walking Lena home. The city air was cool, and the stars were visible through the clear dome that covered Neo-Tokyo's skies. "Can I ask you something?" Lena said softly. "Anything," Cale replied. "Why do you keep coming back? I mean, you seem different. Like you don't belong here." Cale paused, then looked at her with a gentle smile. "Maybe I don't, but with you, I feel like I do." Lena's heart skipped a beat. He continued, "In my world, everything is planned, every move, every word. But that night, you sat at the wrong table. By mistake. And it was the best thing that's happened to me in years." She looked at him quietly. There was something about the way he spoke. His words held more than what he said. Before she could reply, her little brother Milo ran up from the building. Steps. "Lena, who's this?" Cale knelt down. "Hi, Milo. I'm a friend." Milo grinned. "You look rich. You talk like the news guys." Lena laughed nervously. Cale winked at Milo and said, "Well, I'm rich in stories." The three of them walked upstairs, laughing. Cale stood at the door for a moment and said, "I'll see you tomorrow?" Lena nodded slowly. "I'd like that." As he walked away, Echo's voice whispered in his earpiece, "Sir, the board is requesting your presence for tomorrow's Mars Tech Summit. Shall I confirm?" Cale looked up at the stars, then whispered, "No, I have somewhere better to be." And, for the first time in his life, the richest man in the city was chasing something not built with metal, code, or money. He was chasing her. Lena never thought simple conversations could mean so much. Every time Cale, or Kai, as she knew him, walked into the diner, her heart would beat faster. It had become a habit now. She would glance at the door around 10 a.m., and sure enough, he would walk in, smile, and say, "Coffee, please." The world outside still moved fast. Sky trains roared above, hologram ads danced in the streets, and AI robots handled most jobs. But inside Galaxy Diner, time slowed down, especially when Cale was around. For Lena, the little moments mattered. When he helped her mop the floor after a spill. When he brought Milo a toy robot that actually worked. When he simply listened to her without trying to impress. But for Cale, these moments meant more than peace, they meant purpose. He had spent years building machines and managing a cold, corporate world. But this felt real. Still, Cale knew he couldn't keep hiding forever. One rainy morning, Cale arrived at the diner, but something was different. Outside, two small hover drones floated in the air. Their lenses zoomed in as soon as he stepped out of his car. Across the street, a young reporter whispered into a voice mic. Cale frowned. Inside, Lena was wiping tables. But when she looked out the window and saw the drones, she froze. Cale entered quickly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this." She gave a confused smile. "What's going on?" "I think," Cale said softly, "people are starting to figure out who I really am." Lena looked at him. "Who are you really?" Cale sighed. "I didn't want to lie. I just didn't want you to treat me differently." My real name is Cale Arden, Lena blinked. The Cale Arden? The space CEO? Cale nodded slowly. Lena stared at him, silent for a few seconds. Her mind raced with 100 thoughts. All this time she had been spending her breaks with one of the richest, most powerful men on earth. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Cale reached for her hand gently. Say anything, just don't change who you are. Later that evening, the news exploded. Cale Arden seen in lower district with mystery girl. Romance or publicity stunt? Poor waitress and billionaire. Real or fake? Drones camped near the diner. Customers whispered. Lena became the center of unwanted attention. Paparazzi bots followed her when she went grocery shopping. Haters online mocked her looks. People said she wasn't good enough for someone like Cale. It hurt a lot. Lena sat in her small room, hugging her knees. Milo sat beside her. Are you okay? He asked softly. She nodded, but her eyes said something else. The next morning, she avoided the diner. Cale noticed her absence immediately. He asked one of the staff, "Where's Lena?" She called in sick, they replied. Cale left at once. He arrived at her small apartment, knocked on the door, and waited. Lena opened it slowly. Her face was pale, tired. You didn't have to come, she said. I had to, Cale replied. I know this attention is too much. I didn't want to pull you into my world like this. She looked at him, her voice cracking. People are saying terrible things. They say I'm pretending, that I planned this. Cale stepped forward. Lena, listen to me. You didn't plan anything. And I don't care what they say. All I care about is us. She stayed quiet. Cale added, tomorrow I have a big press conference. Everyone will be watching. I want to say the truth, that I met someone by accident. That she's not a model or a star. But she's the most honest person I've ever met. You would say that, for me? She asked. He smiled. For us. The next day, the world watched the live stream. Cale stood at the podium, in front of dozens of cameras and reporters. His black suit shimmered under the lights. He adjusted the mic and looked directly at the audience. Thank you all for coming. I'm here today not as a CEO, but as a man who made a friend in a simple place. I met her by mistake. She thought I was someone else, and I didn't correct her. Because, for once, I wanted to be seen for who I am, not for what I own. The crowd murmured. Cale continued. Her name is Lena. She didn't ask me for money. She didn't care about power. She just talked to me. She made me laugh, and for that, she became important to me. A few gasps were heard. I know some people think she doesn't belong in my world, Cale said. But maybe that's because my world has forgotten what real looks like, she reminded me. And I'm grateful. The press exploded with questions, but Cale left the stage calmly. The video went viral. Millions watched it. Some people were still critical, but many others were touched. For the first time, people saw a different side of Cale Arden, not as a rich genius, but as a man in love. That night, Cale visited the diner again. Lena stood behind the counter, this time not afraid. Her co-workers clapped quietly when he entered. She looked at him, her eyes full of emotion. You really said all that? He nodded, every word. She reached across the counter and touched his hand. That, I guess, you're stuck with me now, he smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Outside, the city continued to shine, and hovercars moved in glowing lines. But inside the diner, two hearts had found something rare, something even technology couldn't build. A human connection. The sun rose quietly over Neo-Tokyo, its light touching the tops of metal towers and glass buildings. The world was busy again. Hovercars zoomed through the sky. AI news screens flashed updates about politics, planets, and Cale Arden's shocking public confession. But inside a small room on the 17th floor of a lower district apartment block, Lena sat at the edge of her bed, still trying to understand what had happened. He told the world about me, she whispered. Her younger brother, Milo, stood by the mirror brushing his hair. He likes you. Maybe he wants to marry you. He said with a playful grin. Lena rolled her eyes. Don't be silly. People like him don't marry girls like me. But deep inside, her heart whispered something different. Later that afternoon, Cale sent a private autopod to bring Lena and Milo to his company headquarters, Arden Dynamics Tower. It was a giant, glowing structure that reached into the sky, like a finger pointing at the stars. Lena had never seen such a building from the inside. As they entered, Cale was already waiting for them in the main hall. He wasn't wearing a suit today, just a plain shirt and slacks. His smile made Lena's heart feel lighter. You look beautiful, he said. Lena blushed. I look tired. Then you wear tired beautifully, he said. Cale walked them into a quiet lounge where fresh flowers stood in glass vases. Milo ran off to explore with Cale's eye assistant, Echo, who guided him with cheerful beeps and lights. Lena sat down on a couch, unsure of why she was really there. Cale took a deep breath. Lena. I've always believed in planning everything. Business, goals, even meals. But then you came into my life completely unplanned, and everything felt more real. She looked at him, speechless. I know this is sudden, Cale continued. But I don't want to waste time. I've waited years to find someone who makes me feel human again. I don't need months of dating to know that it's you. Lena's eyes widened. Cale stood up and walked to the table. A small silver robot stood there, blinking gently. This is an official marriage notary AI. Legal, fast, and secure. No crowds. No noise, just us. Lena stared at the robot, then back at Cale. You're asking me to marry you? She said. Softly, he knelt in front of her. I'm not asking for a grand ceremony. I'm asking for your heart, right here, right now. Silence filled the room. Lena's hands trembled. She had never imagined something like this. She was just a waitress, a simple girl from the lower sectors. But when she looked into Cale's eyes, she didn't see a billionaire or a CEO. She saw a man who looked at her like she was the only thing that mattered. And for once, she decided to follow her heart, not her fears. Yes, she whispered. Cale stood, surprised but overjoyed. You're sure? She nodded. Yes, I want to be with you. Cale turned to the robot. Register us. The notary I beeped. Please state your full names, Cale said clearly. Cale Arden. Lena followed softly. Lena Marin. Soft hum filled the room as the robot scanned their IDs and confirmed their legal identities. Confirm consent. It asked. I do, Cale said. I do, Lena repeated, her voice stronger. The robot's lights turned green. Marriage registered. Congratulations. Cale reached for Lena's hands and gently kissed her fingers. You just made me the happiest man in the world. 10 minutes later, Milo ran back into the room and stopped, surprised. You're married? He asked. Cale grinned. Yes. She's my wife now. Milo looked at Lena, eyes wide. Wow, so I have a billionaire brother-in-law? Lena laughed. Looks like it. Milo jumped with joy, hugging both of them. Even Echo blinked a soft pink light, showing excitement. Cale ordered a small celebration dinner at the rooftop garden of the tower. There were no guests, just Cale, Lena, Milo, Echo, and 2 kind robots serving simple food under the stars. Lena wore no wedding dress. There were no flowers or cake. But the moment was beautiful. The stars above sparkled, and the air felt calm. Cale raised his glass. To mistakes that lead to miracles, Lena smiled. To coffee, broken robots, and wrong tables. They all laughed, but while they laughed, far below in the city, things were moving fast. News broke within hours of their marriage. Hidden cameras, media drones, and insider leaks brought the wedding into the public eye. Some people cheered the sudden marriage. It's love, they said. Finally a CEO with heart. Others were not so kind. Impulsive decision by a top CEO. Will it cost Arden Dynamics? Lower sector girl, now billionaire's wife. Is she ready for this world? Bored. Members concerned over Kale's sudden marriage. The pressure grew quickly. Inside the boardrooms of Arden Dynamics, powerful executives whispered. Investors grew nervous. Stock prices danced. Plans for future projects paused. But Kale didn't care. For once, he didn't care about numbers or markets or opinions. He cared about Lena. Back at the apartment, Lena held her new ID card in her hand. It now said, Lena Arden. She looked around her small room, the one she had lived in for years. The same room with cracked walls, old furniture, and memories of her parents. It was strange to think she was now married to a man whose home was bigger than a spaceport. Kale sat beside her on the floor. We can move anywhere you want. The moon, the ocean towers, even Mars. Lena smiled. I want to stay here, for now, he nodded. Then here we stay. He didn't try to change her. He accepted her world as she had accepted his. And that night, as they sat close together, with Milo asleep nearby, they didn't need crowds or fireworks. Just each other. Because love wasn't about money or fame. It was about finding someone who made you feel whole, even if it started with sitting at the wrong table. Lena woke up to a world that no longer felt simple. She was now Lena Arden, wife of Kale Arden, the man whose name opened doors in every city, whose inventions powered space travel, and whose company was at the center of global attention. But to her, Kale was still the quiet, kind man who ordered coffee and smiled like the sun warmed his heart. Still, being married to him came with changes. Big ones. The day after their wedding, Kale invited Lena to visit Arden Dynamics headquarters again, not for press or business, but to truly see his world. As their hovercar glided across the skies of Neo-Tokyo, Lena stared out the window, watching the city stretch below like a living machine. Towers touched clouds, neon signs danced on air, and magnetic trains zipped across invisible rails. Kale watched her from the other seat. You okay? Lena smiled. Just wondering how my life flipped like a pancake, he laughed. Well, I hope it landed sweet side up. Inside the building, things moved differently. Doors opened with eye scans. Walls changed colors with voice commands. AI assistants hovered quietly. People bowed when they saw Kale. Some looked confused when they saw Lena beside him. But Kale didn't care. He held her hand with pride. Welcome to Arden Core, he said. Lena looked around with wide eyes. It's like a sci-fi dream. He guided her through different levels. She saw engineering labs where tiny robots built spacecraft parts. She saw digital minds, artificial intelligence brains, learning languages, music, and medicine. One robot even painted pictures with oil. On canvas, they don't just calculate, Kale explained. They feel patterns, they create. They learn from human emotion. Lena paused. Do they feel love? Kale smiled. Not yet. That's still something only humans do best. He brought her to a quiet room with soft white walls. In the center stood a table surrounded by chairs made of smart glass. This was the Ethics and Innovation Council room, where Kale made his most important decisions. This room will soon be your room too, he said. Lena blinked. What? I want you to join Arden's Voice, a group I'm forming to guide this company with more empathy. We have scientists and engineers, but we need people with hearts, with real stories. I'm just a girl from the lower sector. She said quietly. You're exactly the kind of voice the future needs, Kale said. Someone who knows how people really live. Someone who understands the difference between survival and comfort. Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. If you believe in me, I'll try. Over the next few weeks, Lena began learning fast. Kale assigned a friendly assistant named Nova, a soft-voiced AI in the shape of a glowing bracelet. Nova helped Lena understand reports, tech language, and the structure of the company. Every morning, Lena would wake early, help Milo get ready for school, and then ride a private pod to Arden Tower. She sat in on meetings, listened to scientists, and slowly began to speak her thoughts. At first, people looked at her like an outsider. She noticed it. The stiff smiles, the quiet whispers, but she didn't let it break her. One afternoon, a team presented a project called Neuralink, a headset that could read emotions and thoughts. They said it would help people with communication disorders, but Lena raised her hand. What about people who don't want their emotions read? Will it be forced? The room went silent. No one had asked that yet. Cale looked proud. Later that day he told her, "That's why I need you here. You see what we miss." Outside the company, Lena's fame was still growing. Some media called her a lucky girl. Others called her Neo-Tokyo's Cinderella. But Lena didn't like the attention. She stayed quiet in public. She avoided parties. She didn't wear expensive dresses. She still used the same simple purse, but she had started to grow into her new world. Not with glamour, but with quiet strength. She also noticed that Cale had begun smiling more, laughing more, sleeping more. His stress, once constant, had softened. "I think you brought calm into my chaos," he told her one night while they walked in their garden under artificial stars. But peace didn't last long. Whispers began to grow in the boardrooms. Some high-ranking executives, especially a sharp-eyed man named Draven Holt, Cale's longtime advisor, began questioning Lena's place in the company. "She's untrained," Draven said at one meeting. "She's not a scientist or engineer. She's a human," Cale replied. "And that's exactly what we need more of." Draven narrowed his eyes but stayed silent for now. One afternoon, Cale took Lena and Milo on a private trip to Luna Haven, the company's moonbase project. They wore light suits and floated inside a space shuttle as the Earth slowly disappeared behind them. Milo cheered with excitement. Lena stared at the stars. "I never imagined this," she whispered. "You'll imagine more," Cale said. "I want to build a future where class doesn't define worth, where even a waitress can walk on the moon and call it home." She looked at him with teary eyes. "You really believe that?" "With you beside me, I believe in everything." They walked hand in hand across the glass dome of Luna Haven. The Earth hung in the sky like a blue marble dot in that moment. Lena understood something deep. She wasn't just learning Cale's world. She was becoming a part of it, not as a trophy, not as a guest, but as a partner in purpose. It was a cold morning in Neo-Tokyo, and the sky above the city was painted with silver clouds. Inside Arden Dynamics headquarters, everything seemed normal on the surface. Robots rolled across the halls. Engineers worked in quiet rooms, and Cale Arden sat in his office, reviewing plans for Project Haven, a future settlement on the moon for both rich and poor. But under that peaceful surface, something dangerous was moving. Lena had just arrived at the tower. She greeted the front desk AI with a smile and entered the elevator. Her days were full now, learning, helping Cale, and guiding decisions that affected millions. She still felt new in this world, but she also felt stronger with each passing day. As she stepped out onto the council floor, she noticed something strange. Several workers stared at her, whispering behind their hands. Some stopped talking as she passed by. She felt it deep inside. Something was wrong. Moments later, Cale entered the room, his expression serious. "Lena," he said gently, "come with me." Inside the meeting chamber, the air felt heavy. Draven Holt stood at the center, holding a data tablet. His sharp eyes locked on Lena as if she were a problem to solve. "We've received security alerts," he said. There was a breach in the Moonlink files. Sensitive data was accessed and transmitted without clearance. Lena's heart pounded. "What does that have to do with me?" Draven handed the tablet to Cale. The signal came from her work terminal. "Cale, stared at the screen. It showed Lena's name, her ID, her digital signature. Her login time matched the time of the breach. Lena stepped back. I didn't do this. I would never. Cale looked at her. His eyes weren't angry, just shocked. I believe you, but it's serious. The board members whispered. A few nodded toward Draven, who stood calm and confident, almost too calm. Cale raised his hand. Until we find the truth, I'm stepping back from operations for 72 hours. Draven will lead the investigation. Lena's voice shook. You're stepping back because of me. No, Cale said gently. Because that's the rule. And I respect it. But do you trust me? She whispered. Cale walked to her and took her hand. Yes, with everything I have. Later that night, Lena sat alone in her apartment. Milo had fallen asleep, but she couldn't rest. She kept replaying. The moment, the looks, the accusations, the cold tone of Draven Holt. I didn't do anything wrong, she said aloud. So why does it feel like I'm already guilty? Then she had a thought. What if someone set me up? She pulled out her small tablet and called her old friend Rhea, who used to be a junior hacker in her street days. Rhea, I need your help. The next morning, Lena and Rhea met in a quiet cafe downtown. Rhea wore dark glasses and smiled playfully. You got yourself in the middle of corporate fire, girl, she said. But don't worry, let's dig. They connected to the system from outside the company's secure network. Rhea ran digital traces from the stolen file back to its real origin point. What they found shocked Lena. The signal wasn't from your desk, Rhea said. It was rerouted. Someone used your ID to make it look like you. Who would do that? Rhea tapped the screen. A name flashed in bold letters, Draven Holt. Lena's eyes narrowed. He set me up. But why? I don't know, Lena said, but I'm going to find out. That evening, Lena visited the tower again, quietly. She used an old staff access route Cale had shown her once. With Rhea's help, she reached the security AI core, the brain of the building's logs and cameras. Echo? She whispered. Cale's personal AI appeared as a small blue light. Hello, Lena. I need access to security footage from the day of the data breach. Restricted, Echo replied. Lena took a deep breath. You know I didn't do it. Please help me prove it. Echo paused. Then its tone changed. Access granted. Moments later, Lena watched a hidden camera replay. Draven entering her office late at night with a master keycard. He used a code to unlock her terminal, copied files, and left, leaving behind digital footprints in her name. She downloaded the video onto a secure chip and rushed to Cale's private residence at the top of the tower. Cale was surprised to see her. Lena? She walked in, eyes full of fire. I have proof. I didn't betray you. She handed him the chip. He plugged it in, watched the footage, and his expression slowly darkened. He framed you, Cale whispered. Draven. He stood up immediately and called an emergency meeting with the board. The next day, the room was full. Executives, directors, engineers all seated, all watching. Cale stood at the front. I present direct evidence that clears my wife's name and exposes the true traitor. He played the footage. Gasps filled the room. Draven, standing in the corner, went pale. This act, Cale said firmly, was not only betrayal to me, but to the future we're building. A future of trust and unity. The board moved fast. Draven was removed, arrested, and taken into custody by security drones. Lena stood by Cale's side, quiet but proud. After the meeting, Cale and Lena stood on the rooftop, watching the sun rise. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder the moment you were blamed, Cale said. But I'm proud of how you stood strong. Lena leaned against him. I just followed my heart. It told me the truth was on my side. You saved yourself. No, she said with a smile. We saved each other. As the light of morning touched the city below, Their hands held tighter. The world had tried to break them apart, but the truth, like their love, had shined through. The scandal had passed. The lies had been exposed. Dravenholt was gone, and peace returned to Arden dynamics. But for Lena, life was just beginning. She was no longer just the poor girl who had once sat at the wrong table in a busy cafe. She was now the wife of Cale Arden, the most powerful CEO in Neo-Tokyo, and her heart, though tested, had grown stronger. Cale stood with her at the edge of the Arden Tower garden, overlooking the glowing city below. The skies had cleared, and stars shimmered above like little pieces of hope. "I still remember the first time I saw you," Cale said softly. "You looked scared, lost, but also like you belonged." Lena smiled. "That day I thought it was my worst mistake. Now I know it was the start of something beautiful." Cale turned to her, serious but kind. "You've changed so much around here. People trust you. They listen when you speak. You brought life back to this place." "I just wanted to help," she whispered. "And you did more than that," Cale sighed. "You helped me become a better man." The next day, the board offered Lena a new role, not just as Cale's wife, but as Director of Human Initiatives. Her job would be to ensure that both rich and poor had equal chances in the future plans of Arden Dynamics, especially for the Moon Colony project. She was surprised. "You want me to represent everyone?" Cale smiled. "Who better than someone who lived both sides?" Lena thought about her old life, the tiny apartment, the cheap noodles, the broken dreams. And then she thought about the future she could help build. "I'll do it," she said. "But only if I can visit the colony myself before it opens." Cale nodded. "Then let's go to the moon." Weeks later, Lena found herself inside a high-tech shuttle. The engines hummed quietly, and the stars outside stretched across space like rivers of light. Cale sat beside her, holding her hand. "Nervous?" "A little," she admitted. "You're about to be the first civilian on the moon colony. That's history. I never thought this would be my life," she said. "From a waitress to this." He squeezed her hand. "That's because you were never just a waitress. You were always something more." The moon colony was breathtaking. White domes spread across the surface like pearls. Gardens grew in glass chambers. Children ran across soft floors that mimicked Earth's ground. Robots and humans worked together in harmony. Lena stepped out in a pressure suit and looked at the stars. Above, Cale stood beside her. "This place exists because of your heart," she turned to him. "Because of our hearts." Later, during a private broadcast viewed by millions, Cale and Lena addressed the world. Cale spoke first. "This colony is not just for the rich. It's for dreamers, for builders, for those who believe we can be better." Then Lena stepped forward. Her voice was calm and clear. "I was once invisible, poor, forgotten, but someone gave me a chance and I found the courage to rise. This place is proof that even the smallest light can shine in the darkest sky." Tears filled the eyes of many watching. The colony was named that day Haven 1, a home for all. Back on Earth, celebrations filled the streets. Lena became a symbol of hope. She didn't let power change her heart. She visited schools, helped street kids, opened a tech school for underprivileged youth, and she always told them the same thing: the world will not always be fair, but you can still be brave. One day, during a visit to her old neighborhood, Lena sat alone on a bench. A young girl, wearing worn shoes and carrying books, approached her shyly. "Are you Miss Lena Arden?" Lena smiled warmly. "Yes." The girl looked nervous. "I want to be like you." "Then start by being you," Lena said kindly. "The world needs your voice." The girl nodded, eyes shining. Cale and Lena's love grew deeper each day. They didn't need expensive parties or royal events. They laughed during morning coffee. They danced in the living room. They made time for each other, despite the busy world around them. One night, as they watched the stars again, Kale gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "I've loved you since the day you stole my seat." She laughed. "I didn't steal it. I just sat down too early." "Still," he said, "best mistake of my life." She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "Mine too." He knelt down and gave her a small box. Inside was a moonstone ring, glowing faintly. "Will you marry me again?" he asked, smiling. She nodded. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." A few months later, they held a second ceremony, not for the cameras, not for the media. Just a quiet vow renewal at the Moon Colony Garden, where Earth looked small and far away. Only close friends, engineers, and kids from Lena's school were invited. Melo the robot served juice with a bow tie dot as they exchanged vows again. Kale said, "Thank you for saving my life," by sitting at the wrong table. Lena replied, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." And with that, they kissed. Under the stars, no longer a CEO and a poor girl, but two souls that had chosen love over everything.